Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahweh Bahasham, Barakahakwadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who ruled and teach well. In peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure to the end. Shabbat Shalom. This is the brother Ra'aya coming at you with another lesson. I'm going to start it off in 2nd Esdras chapter 16, verses 33 to 34, which I feel that this is a verse, brothers and myself are going to be coming back to a lot in the, days, months, Abaratazah, not years, but times to come. 2nd Esdras 16 and 33, the virgins shall mourn, having no bridegrooms. The women shall mourn, having no husbands. Their daughters shall mourn, having no helpers. Women from all different walks of life in a chaotic state because they don't have any men to what? Help them or protect them. And why is that? Verse 34, in the wars shall their bridegrooms be destroyed, and their husbands shall perish of famine. But the key point I wanted to hearken in on is where it says, in the wars shall their bridegrooms be destroyed. Everyone should be aware of this tit for tat between Israel and Iran right now. And it's only going to further escalate until, the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, the War of Armageddon in Joel chapter 3, which is the final confrontation of World War III. And there will be a draft instituted where a lot of men are going to get drafted and a lot of men are going to go over to, the so-called Middle East, really Western Asia, and that's going to be their final resting place. And you already see a bunch of different nations, especially in the, Western world, Western Europe, and, it's growing in the United States of America for a talk of a need for people to join the military and talks of a draft. They're even talking about women getting drafted, which, there will be women getting drafted as well. But I opened up the video with this verse to preface a clip from the brother, the Hopeful Elect 3's YouTube channel titled World War III Draft Coming Near You. And, I did a video last week talking about a possible draft. And then you had those Israeli-Iranian strikes. And now that talk and those drum beats are just getting louder and louder. And we're going to see in this clip, a lot of, American citizens aren't down with the draft. They know what the okie doke is when it comes to a war against Iran. That it's not for democracy or bringing peace or liberation or women's rights. It's nothing more than being a foot soldier for the 1948ers, which, America and Trump, they're puppets for the 1948ers. And those 1948ers are going to make you write a check that your ass, your orange ass, your red ass can't cash. But fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes.
Are you ready to be drafted into the U.S. Selective Service? Well, guess what? Whether you are a man or a woman, they are now setting us up to be drafted and be part of the U.S. military. I want to break down what's going on, but what bill just passed in the House of Representatives and why this bill, for some, is somewhat concerning. Because this means now that every 18 to 24-year-old male will automatically be registered for selected service, but women...
And best believe that age limit's going to go up as those casualty rates rise. Just look it over in Ukraine. I think it's up into the late 40s that people are fighting in that war. And they're literally dragging men off the side of the streets and throwing a flak jacket and ballistic helmet on them and telling them to go fight Russia.
Could be next.
All right, so everybody is aware at this point about what's going on in Iran. Everyone is aware at this point that we are about to start World War III. But the one thing I don't think anyone is talking about is the fact that there's about to be a draft. And I am not saying that to fearmonger. I'm not saying that to be dramatic. I'm not saying that for any other reason other than logic. The country that we would be allied with is currently doing absolutely despicable, committing atrocities over in their lands to the point where the entire world is protesting against it. They are not going to get the bodies they need to get on the ground or just for a war. They're not.
And hey, the whole world is turning against you, small hats over in the Holy Land. As it says in Obadiah 1 verse 2, I have made thee small amongst the heathen, thou art greatly despised. And that whole chapter is dedicated to the judgment and the downfall of you Edomites, or so-called white people, which you 1948ers are. You are of the tribe of Amalek. The true children of Israel are known as the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans today. And your reputation is being truly despised on the world stage. That's why, as we're seeing in this clip, that, a lot of American citizens, and Gen Z especially, don't want to go and fight and die for some bullshit. But according to prophecy, the Lord has other plans for you.
Not going to get the numbers that they need, but they're already trying to recruit like crazy. That's not going to happen. So the only people that are going to be joining are going to be the mag gents. But the mag gents are weak, wimpy little men. They're not going to volunteer. Some of them will, absolutely, because there are a lot of red hats in the military. My ex is military, okay? I get that, but not enough of them. So they're going to have to draft. So just bear that in mind, because I feel like that's something we need to talk about.
Wait, I have a serious question. If the United States drafts Americans, typically they would be drafting Gen Z, right? So who do they expect is going to fight this war for them? Because the majority of Gen Z doesn't support Israel. Like, that's kind of when you've reached the end of an empire, I guess you could say. I could almost guarantee that Gen Z would be fighting against Israel and the United States and helping out Palestine and Iran if they were drafted.
Who get drafted? Who? Me? Hell no. I'm not doing that shit. Is you fucking crazy? I don't give a rat's ass if I'm gonna be considered guilty of treason.
And real quick, this nigga looks like he puts sugar on his lips for chapstick, but that's neither here nor there.
Or if I'm thrown in jail, I'm not fighting no fucking war for the United States. I'm not fucking doing it. Not in this lifetime. Hell no. You'd have to drag me out of this bitch with me screaming, hollering, crying, throwing up, and I'm still not going. I would kill myself before I ever hop on a motherfucking military base for the United States, or just period in general. No disrespect to anybody who is in the military. I just know I'm not built for that shit. I'm not a war person. I'm not doing that shit. And you telling me that I'm drafted and I gotta go? I'm gonna look at that paper and I'm gonna rip that bitch up and throw it in the fucking trash. I'm not going. I'm not going. If that means that I'm gonna have to be thrown in jail so that Big Papa can make me his bitch, okay. I will gladly do that before I ever hop on the front lines of a dumbass war that, mind you, wouldn't even exist. Oh, let me not go into this right now. Yeah, so they can miss.
You know what he was about to go into, you small hats. Hey, the jig is up for you small hats.
With that shit, pass that to the next person, because I'm not doing it. Wrong one, not me. Sorry. Sorry.
I'm not dying for Israel. Fuck that. I will take the time in federal prison. I do not care. If it comes to a point where we have to get drafted and we are getting sent to the Middle East, lock my ass up.
I'm saying all these bullshit posters that you talking about some World War III this and draft this. And I'm gonna be real, I ain't going no motherfucking where. I don't give a fuck who you draft. Don't draft me. The shit that ain't got shit to do with me. Cause I don't know what the fuck America want from a nigga like me. Cause y'all already ripping us off from money schemes and all other shit. Now y'all trying to take a motherfucker in to help go to war for y'all fucking fight that we ain't got shit to do with. Man, fuck y'all.
I feel like if there was another United States military draft, 90% of the people drafted are not going. We're not fighting for this war that we have nothing to do with and that we really don't want to be a part of. Because what the...
Guys, I done got that call. You may know what that call is, but I ain't even gonna say it. But I got that call. They need me there effective immediately. It's going down. I literally jinxed myself. I didn't think this shit was for real. And they said I ain't got no choice. So when I told you guys that I was about to be ABC News, this shit is real. I'm here to broadcast all this shit. Mind you, I'm at work doing my due diligence, doing what I do. Talking to the buddies, and I get the phone call. I'm hello, mind you. This is not a saved number in my contacts. I'm hello, who this was? They said, yeah, this, woo, we need you here, this, that, and the third. I hung up because why is you playing on my phone? And then I get a call for somebody that is actually known to be a contact on my phone. So I'm like, okay, this must be for real. The ass ain't playing. That said contact proceeds to say, why did you hang up the phone? Do you know who you just hung up the phone? No way, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, no, I don't know who the hell that was. It's an unsaved number. And he proceeded to tell me who it was. My heart was in thy ass because thy ass was finna get kicked. They said, we need you here at this amount of time, on this date. Don't be late, bring your ass. It's about to go down. Me? Little old me. I was just at work, brother. I'm confused. Whole trajectory of my day, it just changed off of one phone call. That's how it gets. Shit, you gotta be waiting. Now I'm scared to the bit.
Hey, it's about to go down. This is Isaiah chapter 3. I'm going to read verses 25 to 26. And while 2nd Ezra 16 was dealing with you women in general, is more specifically dealing, this is not more specifically, this is dealing with you Israelite women, especially that so-called black woman, the Judite woman of the southern kingdom. Hey, you're about to be the most assed out woman in America when things go down, and we can already see you're hurting. That pain's only going to get worse. But this is Isaiah 3 and 25. Thy men shall fall by the sword, and thy mighty men in the war. The bridegrooms, the virgins shall mourn, having no helpers, because the men were killed in the wars. Pookie, Ray Ray, Nook Nook, Tank Top, YNs, they're going to get drafted and get sent off. Verse 26, and her gates shall lament and mourn, and she being desolate shall sit upon the ground. You women, you Israelite women, being the mire of the streets, as it says in Micah chapter 7. But hey, another thing we saw in that clip was you had a lot of people saying, look, if they come at me with that draft, I'm going to rip that paper up. You can send me to prison. Pretty much you can go fuck yourself. That's another aspect of things. It's going to cause civil unrest in this country, which you can see civil unrest is already brewing. This is Jeremiah chapter 51, verse 30, which, the brother put this, in the video. The mighty men of Babylon, Babylon the Great, the United States of America, have forborne to fight. They have remained in their holds. Men, American men, not wanting to go off and fight. And then, the average American man just being weak and, pathetic out here. You can look up plenty of videos showing how you've got a lot of these recruiters from different branches in the military complaining and concerned that the majority of Americans of eligible age just don't fit the requirements. They're even having to lower requirements just to get their recruitment numbers in. So that's, just further degrading the effectiveness of the U.S. military. They have remained in their holds. Their might hath failed. They became as women. And, that one Jake talking about he'd rather go to jail and be Big Papa's bitch. It shows how a lot of you American men have become as women out here, and your might has failed. The average American doesn't give a damn about fighting for his country. He's more concerned with the TikTok videos and going his own way. They have burned her dwelling places. Her bars are broken. I'm going to go to 2nd Esdras 15. I'm going to read verses 15 to 16. For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. And what does that sound like? Civil unrest. And those swords in their hands goes into that modern day sword in America, the gun. And what would be a major thing to cause civil unrest? Draconian measures being instituted by the government and the average American citizen going against it, which again, in that clip, you saw a lot of people giving very seditious talk. I'd rather go to jail. I'm going to rip up that notice. And the one lady, let me go back to what she said.
If the United States drafts I have a serious question. If the United States drafts Americans, typically they would be drafting Gen Z, right? So who do they expect is going to fight this war for them? Because the majority of Gen Z doesn't support Israel. Like, that's kind of when you've reached the end of an empire, I guess you could say. I could almost guarantee that Gen Z would be fighting against Israel and the United States and helping out Palestine and Iran if they were drafted.
Hey, very seditious, rebellious talk that instead of fighting for your own government, you'd fight with the enemy. One people shall stand up to fight against another, and swords in their hands, for there shall be sedition among men. And the definition for sedition is conduct or speech inciting open rebellion against a ruling authority or monarch, which is the main sentiment we saw in that clip. And invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and your modern day kings and princes are those in the government. Presidents, governors, senators, mayors, as well as the authorities like the police or the military that uphold the system. In the course of their actions shall stand in their power. Everybody doing what they think is right in their own eyes, getting it how they live. So we see that there's going to be sedition and disregarding of the government and civil unrest coming as well on top of the draft. But now I'm just going to read a little bit of this article on msnbc.com, because like I said at the beginning of the video, those small hats are going to get you Americans dragged into a fight you can't win, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Israel's fight with Iran could end up drawing the U.S. into a regime change war. President Trump says the warring Israel and Iran should make a deal, but wars have a way of spinning out of control, and there is going to be no deal. But I'm going to just get to the main points. If Israel stops soon, there might be an off-ramp. But if they follow through on Netanyahu's rhetoric, yet don't collapse the regime, Iran hawks will try to pressure President Donald Trump to finish the job. And this war will not truly happen until the mark of the BEAST in Revelation 13 verses 16 to 18 is mandatorily implemented, which of course is the micro C-hip implant. And things could flare up more, look like they're about to get serious or cool down, but just know that all-out war will not truly commence until that C-hip is out here. For now, Iran is absorbing a lot of damage, and getting some ballistic missiles through Israel's air defense. If fighting stops soon, that's probably enough to save face. But if Israel keeps attacking, the government could see it as a truly existential threat and undertake drastic action they feared to do otherwise. If anything hits U.S. assets, such as forces stationed in Bahrain, Qatar, or Iraq, or disrupts global energy markets, America could respond and things could spiral. And whether it's naturally occurring or artificially occurring, FF as I'll call it, you're hearing a bunch of people warning about sleeper cell hits from Iran in America. And then also, AQ came out of the closet recently where one of their leaders was calling for all Mohammedans in America to strike at the infidels. So, we're living in some very interesting times where you've got a bunch of different little trigger events that could light that fuse to, get this thing truly popping off. So we'll just have to wait and see. As of June 15th, Trump was left saying Iran and Israel should make a deal and will, as they kept firing at each other. America's stance will likely be haphazard, which will only increase the chances someone miscalculates. Worse, regime change advocates could take advantage of Trump's dithering and manage to create the circumstances that could drag the U.S. military into a wider conflict whose outcome would be far from certain, and you'd need a draft for that. This is Jeremiah 49, verse 20. Therefore hear the counsel of Yahweh that he hath taken against Edom, you so-called white people. Americans, British, Russians, Europeans, small hats, you name it. And his purposes that he hath purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. And that least of the flock are you 1948ers. And as I said, it shall draw them out. Draw out, the U.S. and NATO in on their side, but on the side of Iran, that bear Russia, China, and her other allies. But there's no escaping the U.S., from coming to the 1948ers' aid and getting dragged into the War of Armageddon. This is Joel 2, verse 20. But I will remove far off from you the Northern Army, the North American Army, the U.S. military, all branches, and will drive him into a land barren and desolate, like a desert, the Middle East. The main staging being Saudi Arabia, which every war that the U.S. has launched in that region has been from Saudi Arabia, with its face toward the East Sea, which to the east of Saudi Arabia is the Persian Gulf, and above that, Iran, and its hinder part or behind him toward the utmost sea, the Red Sea, which the U.S. the U.S. Navy is already having engagements with the Houthi Yemeni rebels in the Red Sea. And his stink shall come up, and his ill savor shall come up, because he had done great things, a great slaughter of U.S. military personnel in that region, bringing us back to 2 Esdras 16. The virgins, the women, and the daughters shall mourn, having no helpers, because in the wars shall their bridegrooms be destroyed. So that's it with this video. With this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We are almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babol, Kwam Yasharallah, and until next time, Shalom.